So today I had the opportunity to spend the entire day with my family at the zoo. And I'm kind of a people watcher. I like to observe people. I like to just watch and pay attention and see what I can learn just by watching people. And today I'm going to share with you what I observed today at the zoo. So what's up, everybody? This is Chase with Energy to Conquer, and today is day 66 on my experimental journey to increasing my energy, my mental clarity, and my overall focus. And guys, I apologize in advance. There is a high school baseball game going on behind me. It's like June the 23rd, and I guess thanks to COVID, they're still playing baseball back here, right? So it gets a little loud. That's what's going on. But anyways, guys, so it's going to be a quick video. I was at the zoo today with my family. And like I said, I'm kind of a people watcher. I could just sit in the parking lot and watch people. Just like to observe, right? I don't know, maybe sociology, maybe something would have been, I guess, would have been up my alley, right? But I've always liked to just observe people and just see what I can learn and piece together through watching people. So in observance today at the zoo, there's a couple of things that I did want to share with you guys. And you know, I talked about in the beginning was people get caught up in the fitness, just, I guess, the aesthetics, right? I just don't want to be fat, or I want to look good in a bathing suit when I go swimming, right? I want my clothes to fit better. But there's so much more to it than that, and that's kind of what this channel is about. You know, getting more into the energy game, but the vitality, really. But part of that vitality comes back to your mobility and flexibility, and that's something that often gets ignored, right? You just do enough mobility or flexibility stuff, if you do any at all, just to avoid injury, right? And the problem with that is it affects your, I guess, overall vitality. You know, it's going to dramatically affect your length of life. And most people are not even aware of that. They're not cognitive of that. They don't even give it a second thought. But the thing is, like, we have to be smart enough to realize that, you know, when we've got back injuries, when we've got limb injuries, like, we do permanent damage, like, we don't recover, we become immobile, right? We lose our mobility. That is kind of one of the, like, things that destroys our health. It takes our health down. It does, like, it just destroys it, right? Because if we can't move around, we can't be healthy, and we lose our life. And if you'll notice, a lot of people, as they get older, like, they'll be fine, they'll be in good health, they'll fall, they'll have a hip injury, you know, have a leg injury, knee injury, whatever it is. And if they're not able to fully recover from that, usually their health goes downhill very fast, and usually their lifespan is very short after that. And that's one of the things that we have to be smart enough to work on, but like, and kind of build up, I guess, that mobility and that flexibility before we get to that stage in life. And so what's all this got to do with me going to the zoo? I know, right? But here's the thing, as I was there, I observed a lot of people, and you know, some people I could see was obviously 65, 70, somewhere around there, that age. And the thing is, like, some of them could barely get around, right? Some people were walking with canes, some of them motorized wheelchairs, and it wasn't because they didn't have a limb, or it wasn't because they couldn't stand up, because I'd see them stand up and take pictures and stand up, walk to the bathroom, that kind of stuff. It's just they couldn't be on their feet that long, right? And we almost accept that as norm, right? The normal, right? But the thing is, like, I also saw people that age and older that was walking around, it looked like they had plenty of balance, plenty of mobility, right? And they was just mobile, and they was able to get around. They got around just as good as a 35-year-old, right? And so what's the difference in those people? And a big difference is taking care of yourself and being intentional about your mobility and your flexibility and your balance, right? Because once you lose that, when you lose those three, really, your mobility, your flexibility, usually they're all combined, and your balance, right? You see somebody with low mobility, little flexibility, that means they can't hardly move, right? And they ain't got no balance. Their life is limited, right? It's limited in what they can do. It's limited with the time they can spend with their family, like activities they can do with their family. Like, there's so many limits on what you can do but also their lifespan is limited at that point. It's very limited, right? If you're having mobility issues and you're 50-year-old, you probably ain't got a chance in hell of making it to living to be 100 if you want to be 100 or even 90, right? If you're walking around with a cane at 50, unless you're just super active and maybe it's like an injury, maybe you was in a car wreck or something like that, maybe you was born with something, that's a different story, because those are things that you can't really overcome, but you can still work with what you got. But usually for people that haven't had those problems, and it's just because they've neglected to work on their their mobility, work on their stretching, their flexibility, their balance, and so they get into a place by that age because they've neglected it their whole life. Like, usually those people are not going to pick up and start doing it at that age, and usually they don't even cross their mind until they start having other issues, which everything's connected. So whether it's your ankle, your knee, your back, right, your hip flexors got so much to do with your back, and nobody really spends time on that stuff. And so we've got to be smart enough to look at that. The other thing is just being endurance, right? So there's two things there. One's just, you got to work on your mobility, your flexibility, and your balance. Like, there's no way around it. Like, that's 3 keys to fitness that most people completely ignore. Some people do yoga, and that's good, but most guys, they work on strength training or they work on endurance training through running. They don't spend a whole lot of time on that. When you get to a lot of more runners, they spend a lot more time on flexibility because you about have to. But the other side of that is you've got to work on endurance, right? So the first part was the mobility, the flexibility, and the balance. So the next part is going to be, you got to work on your endurance, right? Because today we got there at 9:30 and we left about 4:30, but we was on our feet pretty much the entire time we was there on our feet, right? I think my wife's watch, I didn't count it on mine, but I think she was like 7 miles is what we ended up walking, but that was stretched over that period of time, right? So it's just standing on your feet pretty much all day long, short of us eating lunch and maybe sit down for a second, just with the kids or whatever. But we was on our feet the whole time. And I know a lot of people there couldn't do that, and it limits the activities that you can do with your family. A lot of people will never even attempt it. And the thing is, like, even at the end, like, I was tired and I was wore out, and so I know other people were, but because I do spend time on my feet and I make it intentional, but I was still able to be present in the moment with my kids, right? Because if you're not taking care of your health, even through diet and your endurance training, right, you get tired, you get hangry, right? You get hungry and angry, you get irritable, right? And you get, like, it's been a long day mentally. Don't have the capacity to deal with the kids, right? And I've got a 11-year-old and a 4-year-old, and it's just like there's a lot of big gap there. So you got to kind of cater to both of them, and it's easy to get frustrated with both of them. But I didn't experience none of that. I've done this before, and I have experienced that. I know, right? And I've also been, you just kind of done, and you're completely done mentally, you're done physically. And, like, don't get me wrong, I was tired by the end of the day. I was wore out and I was ready to get the hell out of there, but I was still able to be present with my kids even up to the end, right? And kind of be in the moment. And if they want to do something, I go do it, right? And so that's kind of the things we take for granted. We don't work out for those reasons for our kids, and then just set an example for the kids, right? We was on our feet all day long. Most kids, their family, like, they do stuff like that on field trips maybe, but their family never experienced that with them. So it's kind of showing them that lifestyle, that active lifestyle, and kind of being there as the model, right? It's kind of helping them paint their worldview of what to expect out of life. But the bigger part of that is, we got to be smart enough to work on the endurance part, right? So that we can do these things with our kids and not be wiped out and not end up making it a miserable experience, right? So we can actually go out and spend time with them and be present and not be worrying about back pain, right? Not be worrying about my legs are tired. Not be worrying about I'm running out of carbs, right? And drink a bunch of sugar and caffeine, right? To pump up my energy, and now I'm crashing, right? So now I'm getting short with my kids and my wife, right? Everybody's pissed off, right? All this stuff, it happens. People know, right? Anyone's ever been there, anybody's got kids, they know, right? You get tired, you run out of energy. What happens? You start getting short with people. You don't feel good yourself. Like, it's hard to be in the moment, right? So guys, that's what this video is about, you know, and that's what I observe in that. It's just people getting tired and irritable, and also, you know, people being older and really tired, irritable, and fatigued. But I see people older, you know, you got two different camps. You got the ones who can barely get around. You know, I see people that's barely getting around at 50, and I can tell, I don't know what their story is, but obviously I can tell a lot of it is diet choice and fitness choice, right? And then, you know, the other thing is, like, I see people that's way older than them that's getting around just fine. You know, my goal is to be 65-year-old and move around like Conor McGregor when he gets in the damn octagon, right? Or any UFC fighter by that point. Those guys are probably the most flexible because they have to be, right? Between kicking, between grappling, right? Between getting their body twisted in different positions, like they've got to stretch and prepare for that. So you watch these guys move around, they just kind of glide around, right? So that's my goal. The other thing I noticed that I didn't mention in the beginning was this. Almost always you could tell, like when families together, you could tell they're, not always, but I'd say at least 60% of the time, if the parents were overweight and out of shape, so were the kids. If the parents were in shape and looked like they took care of themselves, the kids usually weren't too far off from that, right? You would see morbidly obese people, and then you would see their kids would be right on the same track, right? And you know, people don't like that. People may get pissed off of that. I don't care, because it's just the truth. It's objective reality, and I made a video about objective reality, you know. But it's not hereditary. It's your diet choices. It's your diet choices, and it's your activity levels, right? Because whatever you do, your kids are going to do. Now, if you start trying to get fit and eat healthy while your kids are 12, 13, 14, and you didn't give two shits before, then guess what? It's probably not going to work. But if it's all they ever knew, it's just going to be normal for them too. So that's the other thing, you know, we don't consider our kids in this game of health and you know, and energy and vitality. But it's just as much for them as it is for us. And some of you kids are grown, but you know, it still comes back to your grandkids. What message you send to your grandkids? Some of you don't have kids yet. Some of you just don't have kids, right? And it's like, you don't know. I mean, it's like, it's not that you don't know, but it's like, once you get there, you know, and you have kids, it's like you got to be that example. But the thing is, like, even for you, those of you that don't have kids, right, that maybe don't have grandkids or whatever, maybe you don't ever want to have kids, like, you're still setting the example for those around you, whether it's co-workers, whether it's nieces and nephews, like whatever it is, whoever is in your life, you know, people witness you. Maybe it's just your neighbors, right? You're still influencing somebody's life, and they're saying either, man, I want to be like that person, or I don't want to be like them, whatever they're doing. I want the opposite, right? So anyways, guys, I'm going to leave you guys with that. You know, somebody's watching. I don't care, like, unless you just live by yourself and you don't talk to no one, somebody's watching what you do. And so are you going to be that person that where people say, I want to be like that? Man, when I get their age, I want to be like them. Or they're like, look, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't want no part of it, right? And that's kind of more of the mindset when it comes to fitness, because a lot of fitness, we just look at doing it for aesthetic purposes, and we don't really look at the big picture of things, right? The everything that's, I guess, everything that's involved. We just look at a very narrow window, and I think that's a lot of what affects our mindset. It's just like energy, like it comes back to our energy, and people don't even focus, like so many people, they don't focus on the vitality part, they don't focus on the energy part, but that's something that we got to be aware of as well. So anyways, guys, that's all I got for this video. That was my observation from the zoo. If you like anything in this video, be sure to give it a like. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. See you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed one.